afternoon, everyone.
Okay, it's 1:30, so I'd like to call the Alberni-Coocock Regional District Board of Directors meeting to order. Before we start the formal part of our agenda, I'd like to recognize that today is Pink Shirt Day. Pink Shirt Day is all about creating a community of kindness by helping each other have a sense of belonging where we live, work, and go to school. It all starts with small gestures, a kind word, and offer support or understanding. So please just be kind. Okay, and then we'll do the recognition of territories. I'd like to acknowledge we're conducting this meeting on the unceded traditional territories of the Huichesset and Shuswap First Nations, and we're grateful for the opportunity to do so. We also have directors calling in from other territories. I would like to also acknowledge those nations and express our gratitude and our respect on whose lands we live, work, and play. So just a notice that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube on the Regional District website. And if you have any questions, if you're zooming in or watching the meeting, you can please send questions to responses@acrd.bc.ca. So we'll do introductions. My name is Debbie Haggard. I'm the appointed representative from the City of Port Alberni and the Vice Chair of the Regional District Board. Chair Jack is not able to be with us today, so I will be chairing the meeting. So we'll go this way. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Heather Zenner, Manager of Administrative Services. Cindy Solda, alternate for the City of Port Alberni and replacing Mayor Minions.
Good afternoon, Akama Penikote. I am the Electoral Director for Sprout Lake.
Good afternoon. I'm Electoral Director for Cherry Creek.
Good afternoon, Terry Fong, Chief Financial Officer.
Good afternoon. I'm Daniel Sayan, the CAO for the ACRD. And Alex Dyer, Planning Manager.
Jenny Brunn, General Manager of Community Services.
Good afternoon, Cynthia Dick, General Manager of Administrative Services.
Thank you. So now we'll go online and everyone online can introduce themselves. Director Roth, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Roth and I'm the elected director for Beaver Creek.
Thank you. Director Beckett.
Good afternoon, Bob Beckett, representing Area A, Banfield.
Thank you. Director Coots.
Good afternoon, everyone. With Klama Mariah Coots, I am the representative for the Uchucklesa Tribe Government, and I'm calling in today from the unceded territories of the Anishinaabe and the Algonquin peoples. Kleko Chu.
Thank you. Director Boyko. You're muted, Director Boyko.
Good afternoon, Fred Boyko, Electoral Area Director for Beaufort.
Thank you, Director Steer.
Yes, good afternoon, Councillor Steer, appointed Director from the District of Tofino.
Director Johnson.
Afternoon, Kirsten Johnson, Director for the Tokwat Nation.
Director McEwen.
Good afternoon, Marilyn McEwen, Mayor of Ucluelet.
And I'll go to the staff that are online. Colin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. My name is Colin. I am calling in from Ucluelet territory. I work at the Clackamas Biosphere Trust, and so through that, I get to engage with at least members of your West Coast Committee and learning more and more about the ACRD as I go, and it's my first board meeting, so thanks for having me here. And I'll be sharing a bit about a planning project that CBT is helping support.
I just realized that you're part of the presentation later on, so I apologize for that. I thought, is this a new person?
Oh, yeah, I was wondering. I was like, oh, staff of other organizations? Like, who is this guy?
Director Siga.
Hi, thank you, Veda Siga, Director for Area C Long Beach.
Thank you. Charity, did you want to introduce yourself? Are you there?
Charlie Starrett, ACRD Regional Fire Services Manager.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, we have an agenda in front of us. Is there any additions from directors? Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to make a motion sometime probably in the later items about the regional working group for the parks and provide some direction for staff to provide us information next meeting. Thank you.
Hey, would you like to do a notice of motion now so we can get the agenda approved?
Certainly provide a notice of motion that the ACRD directs staff to provide additional information on the regional parks working group to make sure we have coverage from all electoral areas in the Alberni Valley instead of the just two that currently exist, and provide some additional information so the public and directors are aware of what's happening with this group. Thank you.
Is that enough for you, Heather? Perfect, thank you. Any additions from corporate officer?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Director Solder, seconded by Director Cote. All in favor of the motion? Any not in favor? Approved. Okay, so now we have public consultation, the 2025 to 2029 ACRD financial plan, and we're going to have a presentation from Terry Fong, our Chief Financial Officer.
I'd like to
Dr.
make a
Cote?
correction in the agenda. It says 2025 to 2028. Thanks.
Mine says 2029. Oh,
It's correct online.
it's correct online because that's where I printed mine off of, so it is correct online.
Just wanted to make sure you're reading.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Terry.
Thank you. So as I mentioned before, I am Terry Fong. I'm the Chief Financial Officer here at the Regional District, and we're just going to do a public consultation presentation. So another form of consultation with an empty gallery, but still on hopefully some online viewers. So the 2025 to 2029 draft financial plan is currently being discussed at this board in numerous committees and is online for everyone to view, and we must adopt by March 31st of each year. At a regional district model, all of our services are independent, so our budget is really kind of 60 individual budgets that talk about our expenditures and revenues and transferring to and from reserves. The allocation of staff time is seen throughout all of the services, and we need to adopt a balanced budget. We cannot run a deficit. We are currently under the public consultation process of our financial plan. So we've been presenting to some of the member municipalities and hosting and attending community meetings, and we'll be continuing to do that. There is another opportunity tomorrow night from 6 till 8 p.m. at Cherry Creek Hall for an open house, and it's definitely open to members of the entire regional district, not just specifically Cherry Creek. So please stop by if you're looking for more information. The website has a version of the plan, which will be updated here in the next couple days. But if there's any questions or comments related to the plan, always happy to have a phone call at the office or email to budget@acrd.bc.ca. Overall, our draft financial plan is about 29.4 million or $200,000 higher than last year. The taxation portion of this is about 12.6 million when we include the hospital district, and that is an increase of approximately 6.29%. A good portion of that is related to the expansion of the Alberni Valley and the West Coast transit systems. So there is some level of service increases in both of those services that are contributing to the overall taxation increase. And the regional district continues to leverage significant dollars from both the provincial and federal government to support our operations and infrastructure. So we're anticipating about $8 million in grant funding to support our efforts this year. I'm going to do this in a top 10 format. So these are the top 10 things that I think you would like to know about this year's financial plan. So the first one is really working on strengthening the emergency planning network. So really focused on that communications aspect and developing the emergency communication and public notification plan. And in addition to that, we're really continuing with the Fire Smart program. We are finishing up a program that has lasted for the last couple of years and hopeful that we will get another grant here to continue that great work. We are in the process of developing an emergency cultural awareness and safety plan. And these initiatives are all really partnering with all of the nations and municipalities in the region to try to make sure that we are all speaking the same language and notifying our community in the same ways and really leveraging what each other are doing. So really working on that network aspect of it, even though many of the municipalities and nations have their own plans. So just getting that coordination. Transit, I mentioned there's an expansion of hours. It's the Alberni Valley Custom Transit that started on January 1st for an additional 1,300 hours each year. We also have Sunday or Saturday service now, which was a request for a number of years. So looking forward to that being effective for them. On the West Coast Transit front, we are transitioning from the model that the ACRD developed in 2024 to a BC Transit model, and that will commence here on March 1st, so this weekend, I guess. And that will also see an expansion of a service provided to the Millstream community, which was really kind of a missing link of the existing system, and will have a longer service span, so hoping to really meet the needs of those customers. Planning in the rural areas is a heavy focus as well. So we've got the OCP, our official community plan updates for both Area C and Area D going this year. There's some more work to be done on the housing needs front, and also looking at the development approval process to make sure that we are creating some efficiencies wherever we can. And in Bamfield, there's a lot of activity with the Huu-ay-aht First Nations and their community planning work, so making sure we have a coordinated effort. Our infrastructure, specifically water systems, continues to be a focus. So we have a water main replacement in Beaver Creek, as well as an alternative water source feasibility study going. In Bamfield, the much anticipated submarine line replacement to West Bamfield is underway. And at the Long Beach Airport, we are on the third phase of a multi-phase project to upgrade their water system from the wartime infrastructure that was in there. So looking to get the backup generator operating and then do an upgrade to the domestic water system. Climate, including agriculture, also is a major focus this year. So we're doing the agricultural water plan project in the Alberni Valley, focused on food security for emergency planning. And I think Colin's going to be talking about some of the work that him and the sustainability planner here have been working on. We have the greenhouse worker training program that is a partnership with North Island College and Hupachesset that we're getting some funding from the province to do, and looking to begin to implement our corporate energy and emissions plan. The discussions regarding the proposed aquatics facility continue. We continue to talk about the apportionment, which is the funding model that would be used in a service when it goes to referendum. So that continues at a board level, or at a committee and board level, but then also going to look at requesting that the city enable us to do a study about a renovation of the existing Eco Center, just to be an option instead of a new facility. So looking to add that this year, which was not anticipated last year. Access to our parks and trails also continues to be a priority. The plan for the log train trail is to transition to a multimodal form. And so working with the Ministry of Transportation and Transit to permit that and then proceed with that work. Sprout Lake Park is going to finish the trail extension of Faber to get to Cougar Smith Park. And Maplehurst Park is looking to get an access established from the Cherry Creek side of that park. We were happy to find out last year that the federal and provincial government signed a new 2024 to 2028 Canada Community Building Fund allocation, which gives us about 2.8 million over the next 5 years. So this supports many of our different services and is really focused on the electoral areas. for this grant funding as the municipalities receive their own funding. Fire is always important, but the fire halls is kind of where our focus is this year. So Bamfield needing to look at the replacement of the West Side Fire Hall that is well beyond its useful life and not functional very well. Sprout Lake is looking for an expansion to hall number 3, which is Harold Bishop Fire Hall. And then in Beaver Creek, before they do any upgrades to their aging building, they're just going to look at a feasibility study to look at the safety, accessibility, space, and even location in advance of those renovations. And finally, a lot of work continuing in the advocacy world. So Inclusive Governance Project, which is working with the non-treaty First Nation members to see how we can get their voices heard and formally heard through a provincial way to better collaborate in our region. There's the Island Rail Corridor, so that is some grant funding from the province to look at the future of that rail corridor and in collaboration with Sashot and Hupachesit. The Transportation Committee is waiting for the province's study about the Highway 4 access, and then we'll be advocating for secondary route into the Alberni Valley. And then the ACRD continues to try to support any efforts that are made to focus on the primary care and recruitment and retention of medical professionals in our area. So I would say that summarizes the kind of the top 10 focus areas of this year's financial plan. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Terry. That was a great summary. Is there any questions from board members? Director Solda?
Madam Chair, it'd be great if we can get a copy of this presentation. I would love to have that. Thank you.
We could probably get it from Sarah. Does Sarah have a copy of this?
This is different than the one I did at the City of Port Alberni, and I will load it to our website, but we will also share it to the directors as well.
Thank you, Terry. Director Cote.
I'd like to give my thanks and gratitude to staff for the presentation at Sprout Lake Community Hall on Monday. Excellent. We had representation from all management that gave clear and very informative information to the community on what our taxation was going to be, and all the work that is being done within the walls of this building. It's incredible here and beyond. Yes, I think people were very well informed and you did a great job. Thank you.
Terry, just to add to that, can you maybe mention to the public about where next you're going to be? I know you're going to be at Cherry Creek Hall tomorrow night.
Yeah, for sure. So I just think we have 2 more. I'm just going to pull out my calendar. Sorry. So tomorrow night we're from 6 till 8 at Cherry Creek Hall. Presentations at 6:30 if people are interested in that component. And then on Sunday, oh, apparently I don't have it in my calendar. Sunday we are at Beaver Creek to present to their town hall, which is at 1:30, Danielle saying, or maybe I feel like 2 o'clock. Director Roth the same. So 2 o'clock out at Beaver Creek Hall. So area, I think that's their town hall for Beaufort and Beaver Creek together. So those are our last 2 official presentations, but the financial plan will be up on the website right until through we adopting it. So please feel free to provide feedback.
I just want to express my appreciation for you and staff that to go around, because I know it takes a lot of time to do this, but it really improves the communication of the ACRD. So thank you so much. Director Steer, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you through the chair. And I'm just going to echo once again, it's a comment, not a question. And Terry presented to the District of Tofino. I think she was surprised at how many people had attended. It wasn't actually for the presentation, but there was a lot of people in the room. So I really wanted to thank her. It is important to come out to the areas to present on your roadshow. It was very much appreciated by council. Once again, it's that piece of the puzzle to educate the communities on the role that the ACRD plays in our communities. So I wanted to thank her kindly from myself and from the rest of council.
Thank you for that. Director McEwen.
Thank you. Yes, likewise, I'd like to thank Daniel and Shane for coming out to Ucluelet to our council meeting last night and do their presentation. I noted that they didn't stick around too long for questions, but it's a long ways to come to do a presentation. So just wanted to say thanks.
Thank you, Director Boyko.
There we go. Thank you very much. And I just want to say thank you to staff, and we are looking forward to the town hall. Yeah, we'll be set up at 1:30 and get going at 2 o'clock, and should have a lot of good spirited discussions. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board members? Heather, is there any questions online from the public?
No questions received, none in Zoom, and there's nobody in the audience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Terry. And we really appreciate all your hard work at this time of the year. I know it's not an easy time of the year for you.
There is lots of teamwork and have been getting a whole bunch of people come out to present, which is great. So I do appreciate the whole team effort in getting this done.
Is there any declaration or conflicts of interest? Seeing none, I'll move on to the adoption of the minutes, and we have been very busy since the last board meeting. First, we have the Board of Directors meeting from February the 12th, 2025. Is any errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I get a motion that the minutes of the Board of Directors meeting held on February 12th, 2025 be adopted? Moved by Director Sparrow, seconded by Director Siga. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the Accessibility Committee meeting from February the 11th, 2025. Is there any errors or omissions? Director Cote.
Thank you. I found it interesting that there was a lot of concerns regarding Sprout Lake Park. Maybe there could be more input to Sprout Lake Parks Commission on what the accessibility issues are. Thank you.
Director Solda, maybe you can comment on that because you're the chair of the committee, are you not?
I am. So it's basically down by the boat launch for anybody that wants to park that has a disability sticker up. There's only one parking and people are parking there. Also go access to where wheelchairs can get it's hard to get down to the waterfront. So Parks Canada came and had heard our concerns and they are checking into it and they're working on the issue that's down there. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Director Cote.
Thank you. Because we have the Sprout Lake Marine Patrol down there, maybe it's an issue that they could maybe possibly follow up on. Thank you for us.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. Could I have a motion that the minutes of the Accessibility Committee meeting held on February the 11th, 2025 be received? Moved by Director Solda, second by Director Cote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Committee of the Whole meeting dated February 12th, 2025. Is there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, could I motion the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on February 12th, 2025 be received? Moved by Director Solda, second by Director Sparrow. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee meeting from February 13th, 2025. Is there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, Director Cote.
I have a question about the minutes. On page 26, the committee is asked about if the Regional District of Nanaimo has water license on Great Central Lake. So I'm very interested to wonder why they would have a license on Great Central Lake. Thank you.
Were you at the meeting, Daniel, or do you know?
I wasn't at the meeting but I'll hand it over to Jenny, who was.
Yeah, so there was discussion just about what are the alternate options, and we looked at Sprout Lake as well as the Stamp River, which is the two key areas. And there was just questions as to why the consultants, when they were doing the review, hadn't looked at Great Central Lake. And so we'll follow up and give more information on that to the committee. I think that there was history, and again, we're doing the research to look into that. But someone had mentioned that they thought that there might have been a license on Great Central Lake at the time. And so if you have more information, we would love to have it. But we're certainly still investigating.
So yes, there was a previous license on Great Central, but this is the RDN. So that's Regional District of Nanaimo. So I'm wondering what Nanaimo has to do with Great Central or Sprout Lake in general.
think they're going to investigate that. Thank you. Okay, seeing no further comments, could I motion that the minutes of the Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee meeting held on February 13th, 2025 be received? Moved by Director Sparrow, second by Director Solda. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the West Coast Committee meeting from February 19th, 2025. Is there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, could I motion that the minutes of the West Coast Committee meeting held on February 19th, 2025 be received?
Good option.
Moved by Director Steer, second by Director Siga. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the Alberni Valley and Banfield Services Committee meeting from February 19th, 2025. Is any errors or omissions? Seeing none, could I motion that the minutes of the Alberni Valley and Banfield Services Committee meeting held on February 20th, 2025 be received? Moved by Director Cote, second by Director Sparrow. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Finally, minutes from the Electoral Area Directors Committee meeting held on February 20th, 2025. Is any errors or omissions? Seeing none, get a motion that the minutes of the Electoral Area Directors Committee meeting held on February 20th, 2025 be received. Moved by Director Sparrow, second by Director Solda. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next is petitions, delegations, and presentations. Now it's time for Colin Robinson, Program Coordinator from the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust. He's going to be presenting on the West Coast Regional Climate Planning Project. And I think this is going to be a very interesting presentation, Colin. And just a reminder, you have about 10 minutes or so. So please go ahead, Colin.
Sounds great. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just great.
All right. I'll just share my screen. And view. Oh, slideshow. There we go. All right. So as I mentioned, I'm Colin. I accidentally introduced myself before. I am not ACRD staff, but I have had a chance to work with a few. And yeah, I would just say your planning department's amazing. You've got a lot of good people working to make things happen in the region. And yeah, it's just really thankful to how open to collaborating everybody is. So yeah, the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust is an organization, most of you probably know about it, based on the West Coast, kind of representing the westernmost parts of ACRD and connecting with ACRD Area C. So before I get into it, I will just give a quick thank you also to ACRD's representatives on the CBT board. Veda is here, and also Nikki Ling. ACRD has been an awesome partner in the biosphere idea since the inception, in 2000. And I've got a couple pictures on the slideshow here right now. So it is called the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust, and technically the biosphere designated site is the watershed of Clayoquot Sound. But functionally it encompasses the Ukulifat, Toquat, and Ucluelet Ucluelet district. And I often talk about this as the social watershed of the area because, yeah, functionally everything on the west side, accessible by Highway 4, is kind of in it together. And the Biosphere is an organization that exists to support collaboration among these communities. And I think there's been a lot of recent discussions with the ACRD planning department about how Biosphere can help better integrate these communities into ACRD level planning processes. And climate is a very all-encompassing one. And that's kind of where we've been diving in. So why have we been doing this? The climate is kind of the lens on which everything interconnects. And as an organization that exists to interconnect the health of communities and environment, which is as broad as it sounds, climate is a really interesting lens for CBT to take as we look at advancing community and regional priorities. We do have a clear invitation from West Coast communities through various engagements. One of them most recently is a regional forum for primarily environmental organizations, where we had sort of presented these ideas and asked, is this something that, you know, these different stakeholder groups would like CB to investigate? And helpfully we had a grant to support my time to begin investigating it. So it was an easy yes for everybody. And it's been a really interesting process for me to basically just start going out and engaging staff from municipalities and First Nations, but also not-for-profits and the private sector as well, just kind of taking inventory of who's doing what and how can we ultimately stitch things together and advance local priorities in a way that is kind of climate aware and taken care of by climate funding. Because the other bullet point that I'll point to here is the following success of other biospheres that have been able to help channel funding into rural and remote communities, because so often we don't have, you know, a climate planner or a sustainability planner or someone whose express job is to go out and access these funding opportunities and participate in these programs that may exist at a provincial level. And larger cities, you know, Victoria or the Capital Regional District, or even, you know, some of the East Island cities like Nanaimo, they actually have a little bit more capacity to do this, whereas the smaller organization or smaller municipalities and nations don't have somebody with that in their job description as often. So that's a great opportunity for organization like CBT to help explore what opportunities are there. So I've also been talking to a lot of funding programs about, you know, where are the priorities, and where do they want to try to fund? And we've certainly heard that these types of communities, small, rural, and remote, are notoriously dark on a map of where the money's going. But they do try to prioritize. You know, you get extra points for if you're rural and remote. You get extra points if you have a population under a certain amount. But these may make it easier to get a grant application, but still, if there's not the personnel power or the admin power to make it happen, doesn't matter how easy it is to get that grant, you still have to do something. So, and also collaboration. Funders love to see collaboration between different stakeholder groups or rights holder groups, different communities. So these are sort of all rationale of why we're going into it. How? Well, a big thing I've learned to underscore is that I'm not advocating, and in the project I've learned and heard very loud and clear from everybody I've talked to, new work isn't necessary. There is a lot of ongoing work, a lot of priorities and projects that are already on people's desks that are directly contributing to various climate-related measures, whether that's emergency planning or infrastructure or natural asset, you know, mapping and management. And the main intention here is to actually just improve the context in which all these projects are actually happening. We can do this through building relationships between communities, helping align policy documents to be a little more adjacent, understanding how these priorities connect between departments in communities as well as between the communities themselves, obviously accessing funding and helping address some of the personnel or staffing capacity issues in smaller organizations, and then obviously implementing ideas where it makes sense to at a regional scale, kind of looking at how do we advance community-specific priorities in a way that is most cooperative. I think there's a really good opportunity to connect things through the ACRD right here. So I've been chatting with Amy Needham, learning a little bit about her portfolio, and I just want to say good job, ACRD. You've done a lot of really great work already. And as you go towards the planning processes for the region, I think CBT is an amazing container where we can help integrate the perspectives and priorities of the municipalities and nations within the area we serve, and help, I think, integrate it into the ACRD level planning processes. And ultimately, you know, being a West Coaster myself, trying to see how can we benefit the smaller communities, especially the West Coast communities here, and ensure that things happen in a really beneficial way for these places. I gotta keep it going fast here because but regional scene check, I'll just give you a little update of what I've learned. I can't go into project specific details, but the Heshquit, Ahousaht, and Coquit First Nations are the northern nations in the region. They're non-treaty, So they are participating in very different I guess, climate activities than I would say the municipalities or the treaty nations. In particular, the conservancies that they've been establishing to protect a lot of the old growth forests and other like secondary growth forests, but just an ecosystem-based climate approach. It's also biodiversity conservation. It's very interconnected, but it's really exciting to see what's happening here. District of Tofino has got multiple really important climate projects peppered throughout the operations of the district, and there's statements in the planning documents, and it's very much happening, but it's not interconnected at a planning level. But it's really cool to see the way the work is happening. A lot of the work I've learned is happening around water and understanding sort of where the water's coming from and going, and what does this mean for growth, and what does this mean for stewardship, as well as, yeah, waste management, natural asset management, emergency preparedness. Obviously, a big part of the Tofino picture is the tourism economy as well. Ucluelet, we've got previous climate adaptation and mitigation plans created, and some really exciting review of these documents to see how they've shaken out and what's happened in the last few years. And there is a lot of progress that's already been made. Toquat and Ucluelet, we've got the modern treaty nations, so very different context than the Hausut, Heshquit, and Cloquet. But again, really exciting to see various projects happening and the funding opportunities and the governance options for making these things happen is different than the northern nations, and it's just neat for me to learn. And as we try to make the regional scale I guess planning processes, how can we be encompassing for the different contexts in the communities here? We've also, as I mentioned, got the private nonprofit sector, and we've got a couple of big colonially managed lands out here, the parks, and all these different actors play a big role in the big picture of what happens. And again, this is just to underscore that CBT is kind of uniquely networked among these different actors, and hopefully we can encompass, I guess, a lot of the different moving parts. These are just pictures of projects that I want to lift up and celebrate. It's not like we're starting from scratch here. There's a lot of amazing climate-related work that is already being done or is ongoing. And I don't need to, I'm very wary of my time, so I'm going to just breeze through here. Funding opportunities, a big goal of what we're trying to do here is channel more money into the area in a way that aligns with capacity and project priorities. And yeah, so I've kind of spoken to it already. We've got pretty good connections with funders, and we're just looking to connect the dots and see how we can get the money into the area and the people lined up to do the work. Ideally, the people are already trying to do this work, and we're just sort of aligning it a little better. The last thing I'll mention before I head out is the Vital Conversation on April 16th. So I've done a lot of networking and meeting with different actors, as I've mentioned, but this is going to be in lead up to a group conversation between communities and organizations in April to sort of further discuss and identify these priorities and projects I've been mentioning and help direct CBT on how to best support. We've also got Amy Needham coming from ACRD to really figure out how this can map into the ACRD level planning. And ultimately, the view is to create some good material to put into grant applications and identify some roles moving forward. That's where I will leave it. Happy to answer any questions if that's helpful.
Thank you so much for that, Colin. I appreciate the presentation, and you stayed just within 10 minutes, right on time.
Nice. I had my phone timer watching the seconds.
Any questions from the board members? Director McEwen.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation, Colin. And Colin was at our board meeting, our council meeting, to do a presentation as well recently. Just wondering if you have a location yet for your April 16th event.
Sure do. It's in Yuki. I was able to make it happen.
Yay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, at the Ucluelet Community Center.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Director Steer.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Colin, for the presentation. And I did have Colin in my kitchen just the other day, so we did have worked together on some projects in the past, and so it was great to have that presentation here today. And I think Marilyn answered the question. I did have a quick question about the location of the vital conversations, and just to explain maybe to the board the importance of those vital conversations that have come out over the years. Is it's not the first one, and they have really been an important factor in those community conversations about the priorities facing our area. So thanks, Colin, for the presentation. We look forward to seeing you on the 16th.
Thank you, Director Steer. And we do have a motion later on regarding your supporting your project. So we'll have discussions later on our agenda. Any final questions? Thank you so much, Colin. Appreciate you coming in today. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.
Next on the agenda is the 2025 Local Government Leadership Academy. Registration is open for the 2025 LGLA Leadership Forum, which will be held in Richmond, BC, March the 12th to the 14th. Director Roth.
Thank you. I would just like to make the motion that the ACRD Board of Directors support alternate director Harley Wiley to attend the 2025 LGLA Leadership Forum scheduled for March 12th to 14th, 2025 in Richmond, BC.
Are you seconding Director Cote?
I will second it, but he has an opportunity to go through his alternate position with the TSHAT. So he has that other opportunity as well. The reason why
I don't like to speak for him.
The reason why I bring that up is because we don't support the city of Port Alberni or the Tofino Ucluelet representatives when we send them to these things. So that's just, and we've never sent alternates before. So I think that's something new that we should discuss. Thanks.
Daniel, please go ahead.
If it helps, I can speak to that. We have two policies that would speak to this. One is our procedure bylaw, which we're going to be working through this year, and the other is our remuneration bylaw, which we're going to be working through next year. Both of those aren't really clear on whether or not we send alternates. What it does say is that a director can send an alternate, and it doesn't say to what end. And I think my understanding here is that Director Roth would be sending her alternate in lieu of herself. And so we don't have that clarity, but we could provide that clarity in the future. I think the only financial concern would be if everyone went and sent their alternates, then there would be a lot of people there. Yeah, the policy isn't clear, so it is open to interpretation along those lines, and that is something that perhaps in the future we can clarify.
Dr. Solder, did you have your hand up? My understanding that only elected officials could attend conferences, but as Daniel alluded to, when we looked at policy, it's not really super clear. However, my concern is that if we send one alternate, we have to open up and invite all the other alternates. So you see how many people are sitting around the board table and we all have alternates. So that could become extremely costly. And then we have to think about how many conferences do we allow alternates to go to? If we allow all the alternates to attend all the conferences that are available throughout the year, that's going to be a huge amount of money that we have to add into our budget. So where is that funding going to come from? So I'm just really concerned about it. Now, is Terry still on the line? Terry, are you there? I'm just wondering, where does the funding come from to send people to conferences? Does that come from general governments? And that's where everybody pays into?
It actually, for attendance at AVICC, UBCM, LGLA, those come through electoral area administration because for the electoral area directors because the municipalities send their directors directly, so they're paying for that through their individual budgets. So this would come from the electoral area directors committee budget.
Thank you, Director Solda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In all the years that I've been with the ACRD board and through the city, we've never ever sent an alternate. So I don't know what your policy is because we've never ever had this situation come up before.
And I'm concerned that if you send an alternate to this one, we have a lot of other alternates that might be interested, but we're not aware that they could attend. So I feel like we're playing favorites if you don't put out an invitation to all the other alternates. Director Roth, and then Director Sparrow.
This was discussed at a prior meeting, and we did bring up the idea of an alternate, and everyone seemed to be okay with it then. So that's why I asked Harley if he would be interested, and he said yes. So it's kind of too bad that it's taken this turn now, but thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't remember having that discussion before.
It was.
Don't remember.
It was on the agenda before.
Doesn't ring a bell with any of us, actually.
It was.
I remember it as well. Thank you.
Meeting. Yeah. Is there any other comments from board members? Director Sparrow.
If we send a alternate, which is a non-elected official, does he have the right to vote? Because we go there and we vote on recommendations and we speak on the floor. Does that give the alternate, a non-elected official, the right to do that, an elected board, and vote on our behalf?
Well, the LGLA is an interesting one, right? Because there's a lot of training and there is some voting. Technically, under legislation, when an elected official is not there and sends an alternate, the legislation is clear that they can act in the capacity of that elected official. So technically, he would be representing Beaver Creek and could vote. Yes, as part of.
Thank goodness.
Director Boyko.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had this discussion before, and it's interesting that people are not remembering it. Maybe they were not at that meeting. That being said, it's the same thing as you bringing your alternate to this board table we're at right now and having them vote in your behalf. I see no difference. Thank you.
Director Cote.
Thank you. This has come up at UBCM and ABICC, where alternates are not given permission to vote at those conventions. You have to be the elected official. And there has been alternates that have taken the director's place in an electoral area where clarification was being sought because they were taking that seat for extended periods of time. And because that person was not an elected person, there was question around the validity of their voting. So, and I can't remember where that ended or if it even has ended yet. But I know that there was a lot of discussion about that. Thanks.
Daniel, please go ahead.
Yeah, I will echo that. So the UBCM, I believe, was the conference that last had this additional contention. I know it's up to the UBCM. It was up to the UBCM to make that decision. With regard to our policies and how it applies, I feel the interpretation there is clear. Like our policies aren't clear, and if I were to interpret it, it would say Susan isn't going; she can appoint her alternate to go. And under law, the way I would read it right now is that an alternate has the right to vote. The section is clear: is that if the elected official is not there in their official capacity and send the alternate in an official capacity to replace them, they are acting on their behalf. Now, that is my interpretation of our policies. It could be that the LGLA or the UBCM would have a different interpretation when we get there, but that would not remove the benefit of the training sessions that exist for the LGLA.
Director Cote.
Thank you. When I was on UBCM, there was a question around who could vote at UBCM, and alternates would specifically have on their tag that they weren't the elected official, they would be the alternate. So they would not have voting privileges at UBCM. And because LGLA is put on by UBCM, I would imagine that the policies would follow along with that. So he wouldn't have voting privileges. But you're right, though, the training is there. And but because he also holds another seat with a different local government, and we don't support cities or incorporated areas for their training, I'm having difficulty with this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Boyko. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Just to follow up on what Director Cote was saying, if your alternate is there, is that at the same time that the original elected official is there and the alternate is there at the same time? Or when the alternate is there, okay, I see you shaking your head. So an alternate is an alternate no matter what. So they only have voting privileges at the board that currently is in front of people. Is that what everybody's trying to say? All right, just so we're very clear. I do agree with one thing, as in this individual is elected at a other facility that could be sending them, and the funds to send this person could be coming from that place as opposed to the regional board because they are a member of a non-treaty nation. Thank you.
Dr. Roth?
Yeah, someone mentioned something, I think it was Director Cote, about the incorporated and unincorporated areas, or the incorporated areas not going. Non-treaty nations are non-incorporated areas, just like electoral areas, just like Beaver Creek. So in that respect, they're the same. I'm kind of troubled by this. I'm not sure why it's going down this road, but I'm quite sure that my alternate would not like this discussion. So I'll just like to end it. It should have been in camera. Thank you.
Thank you. My only concern is, as I said, if you open up to one alternate, all the other alternates need to be invited as well, because
Well, they are.
Well, they're not aware of it.
It's in here.
The other alternates have not been invited to attend. I don't think we should be specifically sending one alternate without ensuring that the other alternates for our board members are aware that they're able to go for training. As Councillor Solda said, we have never ever sent an alternate to a conference before. So this is something new, whether it's in policy or not in policy. It's something that we've never done before. So I think I would have no problem with him going, but I don't think we should be playing favorites. We should be asking all our alternates to go. And as I said, where do you draw the line? This is going to become very costly to the board.
Well, it would be coming out of Beaver Creek electoral areas funds, because that's where, so it's not the whole regional district that would be paying for it.
Yeah. Director Beckett, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If this went to a vote at this point in time, I would be supporting, a alternate going, in this case, Harley. I don't necessarily agree that this should be in camera. I think it's fine to have a discussion about policy and other related discussions, including should we be formally inviting other alternates, and what does it look like from a budget standpoint. So I'll just be very, very brief, because we've had a long, good discussion on this. I would support this if it went to a vote, but I really do believe that we need to bring this back to the board to have fulsome discussion on policy, budgeting, expenditures, voting for clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Just wanted to point out that all of the electoral areas pay for this, not individually to Beaver Creek. It would be based on the land of improvements of all the electoral areas. And I think it was mentioned before, but we will be doing a review of the bylaw next year. So this would be a good topic to refer to that external committee that then provides recommendations to the board to consider in advance of a new remuneration bylaw.
Thank you, Director Siga.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I think if the elected representative can't go and they do want to be represented at a conference or a meeting, and they put forward the name of their alternate, I kind of think that that's something that needs to be respected. And presumably, if the alternate is going in the elected official spot, they won't be doubling up. Yeah. Thank you.
Is there any other board members that would like to ask their alternates to attend? Okay, is there any final questions or comments before I call for motion? All in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So I think we need to have some clarification on policy, perhaps for the future would be useful. Okay. Director Cote.
Thank you. I would put this to staff to follow up. There is AVICC is coming very shortly. It's very costly to send people to alternates to these training sessions. I don't know that Director Roth has been to a training session. So I'd much rather see the directors go and get the training rather than alternates. And I'm not sure what the benefit of the alternate bringing back information to the director is. So I would really like to see a policy brought forward to the board before AVICC, because I don't really want to be sending alternates to conventions where really it is the director's duty to attend these things and vote on their being representative of their community. Thanks.
Do you want a motion for that, Heather? Is that a motion, Director Cote?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Could I get a seconder? Seconded by Director Solda. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much. Good discussion, everyone. Next is correspondence for information. First, we have correspondence from the Fisheries and Oceans Canada regarding the West Banfield Submarine Waterline Replacement Project and request for the expedition of the permit for the West Banfield Submarine Waterline Replacement. Second, we have a letter from the Columbia-Shuswap Regional District about participation in the Cooperative Community Wildfire Response Program. Does anyone have any comments regarding the correspondence for information? Seeing none, could I motion that the Board of Directors receive items A through B for information? Moved by Director Solda, seconded by Director Sparrow. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is request for decisions and bylaws. We have a community climate planning. So we just had a presentation about that. Would anybody like to make the motion? Director Siga.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I thought Colin's presentation was really good and gave a good overview of the importance of coordinating on the West Coast, which the financial plan is certainly, and the OCP is certainly doing. So I'd like to move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to work with the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust to apply for grant funding to support community climate action plan development, which will set targets for both mitigation and adaptation actions for the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District, and to offer collaboration on areas of mutual alignment with all member municipalities and interested First Nations.
Moved by Director Siga, seconded by Director Steer. Is any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is request for decision adoption of bylaw E1052 2-7 expansion of Beaver Creek Fire Department. And that's going to be Terry speaking to this.
Great, thank you. So this is the last step to adopt this bylaw to expand the Beaver Creek Fire Department service area to include the Mountain Ranch Road service area and the Granville Road service area. So those service areas are all being serviced already by Beaver Creek and will not change the operations of how they see service. It was really just a governance change. Unfortunately, it did not incur in time to be on the 2025 property taxation bills. However, we will continue the process and it'll all be set up for next year, which will be great. Coming up later this spring, we will have to start rescinding the other bylaws, which are the Granville Road and Mountain Ranch Road ones. But this is all for today, and I'm happy to get this one adopted.
Thank you. Director Roth, would you like to read the motion?
Sure. I'll move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors adopt bylaw cited as Bylaw E1052-7, Beaver Creek Fire Protection Service Area Amendment 2024.
Moved by Director Roth, second by Director Solda. Any questions or comments, Director Sparrow?
Thank you. I have one question. How far is the distance between Beaver Creek Fire Hall and the extended boundary?
So the boundary actually isn't extending. These boundaries, it basically was 3 separate service areas. Back in the 90s, if you wanted to expand a service area, you had to put a maximum on the bylaw, the establishing bylaw, and the board at the time didn't want to do that. The maximum requisition amount scared the board at that time. So instead of adding these parcels when they requested service, they were made into new separate service areas, but all have been provided service since Beaver Creek since they've started. Since that time, we have expanded the Beaver Creek boundary and put a maximum in there, which is more than adequate to run the department. And so there's no change to how they're being provided service. I don't know how far they are, but I know that they are within insurance ratings timelines.
Did you have another question?
My God. Yeah, so insurance rating timelines are either 8 kilometers, 11 kilometers, 15 kilometers. And in one case, Mount Washington was serviced by Courtney. So yeah, there are a bunch of different rates. And I was wondering if it's the 8 kilometers, 11 kilometers, or 15 kilometers.
Oh, Charlie, he popped right up. Did you have an answer to that?
The, when those were established, the kilometers was 15 kilometers for him, and they are all within that range.
Thank you. Any other questions? Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This Mountain Ranch area is actually in Beaufort and it's been serviced for years, decades, and this is just a paperwork thing to reduce the paperwork on the financial department. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the West Coast Transit Bylaw F1166-2 amendment. Jenny, please go ahead.
Thank you. So we have great news that BC Transit will be taking over the West Coast transit system starting next week. And this bylaw is to update those rates. We have set rates because we've been operating the system for the past year, and we're getting a small reduction in the daily fee by 50 cents, simply because we're switching over to a BC Transit app, so we don't have administration overhead fees. So this is to update the bylaw to make that change to the fee. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jenny. Any questions? Seeing none, would anyone like to start making the motions? Director Siga, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to the West Coast Transit Fees and Charges Bylaw Amendment, Bylaw number F1166-2.
I'll second.
Moved by Director Siga, seconded by Director McEwen. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Director Siga, please go ahead.
I'd like to move the second reading.
Second.
Moved by Director Siga, seconded by Director McEwen. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Please go ahead, Director Siga.
I'd like to move the third reading.
Second.
Moved by Director Siga, seconded by Director McEwen. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Please go ahead.
And I'd like to move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors adopt the West Coast Transit Fees and Charges Bylaw Amendment, Bylaw number F1166-2.
Second.
Moved by Director Seeger, second by Director McEwen. Any final questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the Beaver Creek Water System Bylaw F1148-4. Jenny, please go ahead.
Thank you. So staff brought a report to the Beaver Creek Water Committee last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, and did a review of what our rates are and provided a recommendation for an increase to adjust to cover the inflation that we've been seeing over the last few years. The committee was fully in support of this, and we have prepared a bylaw to implement those rate increases.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Jenny? Director Sparrow.
Thank you. I noticed this was done last time in 2021, and this has been 4 years. Is there any thought of doing it like annually or biannually or like that? Because when I get these increases, they get a little uppity all of a sudden because it is a bit of a jump. Wouldn't it be easier to just do it every year like we do here with our budget?
Through the chair, that is a very good recommendation. And it is good practice because if you implement regular rates on an annual basis for whether it's solid waste for tipping fees or for water fees, yeah, people do not mind that. So we will definitely be looking at that moving forward and trying to do that. I will say the one benefit to this is that it's a little bit less of an administration overhead, but the public happiness is always the bigger consideration. So thank you for that.
Maybe give consideration just raising it every year according to what the CPI is and just do it automatically. Have a thought. Anyway, Director Roth, would you like to start making the motions?
Sure. I'll move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to bylaw number F1148-4 Beaver Creek Local Service Area Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw 2025.
Moved by Director Roth, second by Director Sparrow. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Please go ahead, Director Roth.
I move second reading.
Moved by Director Roth, second by Director Solda. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Please go ahead, Director Roth.
Third reading.
Moved by Director Roth, second by Director Solda. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. And go ahead, please.
Move that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors adopt bylaw number F1148-4 Beaver Creek Local Service Area Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw 2025.
Moved by Director Roth, second by Director Sparrow. Final questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is planning matters, and this is for electoral area directors only. We have RF 24015 Bennett at 6088 Column Road, Cherry Creek, rezoning report and bylaw. Alex, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a rezoning application for a 1.25 hectare property in the Cherry Creek area, as you've heard. The property owners intend to rezone to RA3 district in order to facilitate a 4-lot subdivision. And the application was reviewed by the Cherry Creek APC on February 10th, where the APC supported the development as proposed. The rezoning is consistent with the policies and objectives of the Cherry Creek OCP and would provide for additional housing opportunities in the community. There are some technical aspects associated with the 4-lot subdivision that would be considered at the subdivision stage, including the parkland dedication or cash in lieu of parkland and the parcel frontage waivers for the access driveways. But at this time, the staff recommend that the board proceed with the public input and neighbor notification process, and that the board consider first reading at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments from the board members? Director Sparrow, would you like to read the motion, please?
Okay, I'll read the motion. That the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors consider first reading of bylaw P1524 Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Zoning Atlas Amendment Bylaw at a future date, and that a notice be given in accordance with section 467 of the Local Government Act.
Moved by Director Sparrow, second by Director Cote. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Please go ahead, Director Sparrow.
The Alberni Clay Court Regional District Board of Directors confirm that adoption of bylaw P1524 subject to a confirmation of from a registered on-site wastewater practitioner that the parcel can accommodate on-site sewage disposal at a 0.24 hectare minimum lot size and be meeting all technical referral agency requirements.
Moved by Director Sparrow, second by Director Cote. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next is staff reports. We have the meeting schedule for March 2025, building report for January 2025, and monthly agreement and grant delegation report January 1st to 31st, 2025. Is there any questions regarding these reports from the board members? Seeing none, get a motion. The Board of Directors receive the staff reports A through C. Moved by Director Beckett, second by Director Sparrow. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is committee reports. We have the Agriculture Development Committee meeting for February 18th, 2025. Is there any board member that attended that meeting that could give a verbal report? Were you at that meeting, Director Boyko?
Yeah, sorry, I had some noise in my background. Yeah, we had our annual agenda meeting on Saturday. A full house was there. We had some clarification from the head staff member about the financial mismanagement that was happening. So basically there was this is all in the public now. There was the financial director was how do you say, the reserves were on paper, but were not fully funded in the bank.
Sorry, Director Boyko, this is the Agriculture Development Committee meeting report. Were you at that meeting?
Yes, I was. Nothing really special happened. I don't have any good notes on it.
Director Cody, did you have some comments?
Sure, I was there as well. Talked about water stewarding, agricultural courses, in BC Phase 1 Action Plan. Sherry Patterson, the ED from the Couch and Exhibition Show, was there asking for the Alberni to do a taste of Alberni at the reception center or reception for the show. They may create a subcommittee. Other than that, it was quite an interesting meeting. I am attending as a Agriculture Advisory Committee member, not an AD committee member. Thanks.
Thank you for that report, Director Cote. Next is the Parcel Tax Review Panel meeting. Director Sparrow, did you have a verbal report from this morning?
Thank you.
This afternoon, I should.
Pardon me?
From earlier this afternoon instead of morning.
Yeah, I noticed that. Thanks. We had a parcel tax review panel meeting here at 12:30. There was 5 directors. They're in Zoom or in the room here, which is really good. Good involvement. There was nobody in the audience, online or otherwise. So we went through the parcel tax review. Terry led it. You get there's 11 parcels that are going to go through it. I think she said she's still here. And everything went exceptionally smoothly. It was quick, fast, over time before we started. So it was great. Thank you.
Director Cote.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I had more on that. If I could go back.
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. So they're asking for a UBCM resolution to reinstall BC Ferry priority boarding for livestock. Because it's important that you can't be sitting around. There's rules that you have to take your animals off the vehicles and water them after so many hours. It's quite an imposing thing if you don't have the priority boarding. The Alberni Fall Fair is their 80th this year. They're looking at new Lager Day poles to install. Vendor applications start May 1st, and it's $250. They were talking about Jake what's his last name? Van Kooten, that has recently passed away, that had the giant pumpkins. So they're talking about what to do with the seeds. CD Saturday had 600 people, was very successful. Strategic planning for the AV food security. East West Coast is looking for land. Asking the ACRD for a support letter to support farmers market coupons. 60% uptake on coupons program needs adaptation. The 4-H Club has 26 members. And Tanya Shannon has asked us to include the Agriculture Advisory Committee with the ADC. Talked about the windstorm, and she's interested in us changing the what is it? Looking back at stuff, you know what I'm talking about. The agritourism accommodation. So you don't have to use the temporary use permit because the agriculture what is it? It's in their mandate that they allow the accommodations already. So it's us that is actually stopping that. So asking staff to take a look at that, because that's important, because we're working on our OCPs and we don't really have the staff time to do the whole rezoning for agriculture, but maybe this one thing we could take on. That was it. Thanks.
Director Boyko.
Yeah, thank you. Just to follow up. Yeah, I've been asking for that for about 6 months now and being told that we don't have enough staff time for the OCP, but that is the main thing from the agricultural people, is to implement the agritourism and a couple of the little things, get it done and move on so that the farmers can be happy. Thank you.
Regarding that UBCM resolution, do you want to keep that in your back of your head and bring it forward when it gets closer to UBCM, or do you want staff to start working on it now?
I think that I don't think that that AVICC will take it as an emergency resolution, because it's not something that has just happened. But yeah, I would I'll talk to AVICC and see what we can do there, as far as maybe it could be an executive resolution, because it affects all of the islands. So, and then we could bring that forward to UBCM. But yes, so I'll ask staff, I guess, right now to start thinking about it. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I know you're on it. Okay, can I get a motion that these verbal reports A through B be received? Moved by Director Sparrow, second by Director Solda. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Now for member reports, 911 Corporation. Director Beckett, please go ahead. Director Beckett, are you there? Or are you frozen? There you
I
go.
was frozen, but I'm back. Thank you. I have no report on 911. We don't have another meeting for another at least another month.
You surprised me when I looked up and there was two of you. Next is Vancouver Island Regional Library, Director Boyko. Now you could start over about the Regional Library Board. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, it's someone in the background here. So we had our annual general meeting on Saturday. Full house was there, lots of staff, lots of people. They're almost fully staffed up again. We had some clarification from the director about what had happened with the previous financial mismanagement. So for over 10 years, the director of finance had been not putting money into the reserves, as the reserves were on paper but did not actually exist. So The end result is the taxpayers are out millions of dollars across the whole island and whatever the Vancouver Island Regional Library serves because of what the previous director of finance was doing. That person is no longer with the library board and they've hired a new one. The new one's only been there a couple months. So last week, Director Beckett asked if there's a 5-year financial plan. There has been in the past. There is not one this year. Moving forward, when the staff gets back up to speed, there will be a 5-year financial plan. Some other things, they found $3 million of money in a different account that wasn't there. And it was a condition of under budgeting and overspending. So operational controls of finances have been improved. There's an audit and finance committee that I will be helping sit on. And it comes down to a couple of things here. The financial mismanagement was perpetrated by staff and not detected by the board for over 10 years. Blindly following staff recommendations of anything cannot always be an option moving forward. If directors have time and they want to put in the effort to dig in deeper into things, they need to be given the option to do that, not blocked by other directors, such as happened in our board in the past couple of months, especially when looking at bids and things like this. This mistake has cost the taxpayers millions of dollars in the past couple of years towards fixing the problem. It will take more years to correct. Currently, the reserves are half funded and half are just on paper. So taking the time by directors, the additional time to make sure taxpayer funds are correctly allocated and used may not be available for all directors with their time and being able to do this. But the other directors should not block a director that wants to spend additional time at their own expense and resources to investigate what staff is doing. Thank you very much. And we'll have to make sure that these problems do not exist where we're doing and what we're representing our taxpayers for. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Oh, and Tofino, they'll be getting a new library soon or upgraded. Thank you.
Well, that's exciting news. At least we'll get some money back from all the money that we put in. Director Sparrow.
Thank you. To Director Boyko, didn't they have an auditor come in each year and didn't the auditor go through and give it a green thumbs up, or how's that going to work? Oh, I have.
Maybe Director Cote would have a bit more about that, but it was audited financial results. And this thing with the reserves was not detected for over 10 years. Now it has been corrected, but the end result is the finances stated on the reports did not exist in a bank account. So there's quite a large discussion of the reserves that are stated now. Currently, only half of it actually exists in a bank account. That will be why taxes are increasing above inflation for the library for this year and probably next year as well. So there'll be a lot of taxpayer funds going into the reserves to correct the problem that has been existed. But making sure things are audited properly is very important at every level of government. Thank you.
Director Cote, did you have your hand up?
Just yes, they were audited every year, and it wasn't detected by the board, and a board of 38, and there's accountants on that board as well, and people in finance. The library created a financial committee that now oversee all of the finances and have made corrections. The actions that were taken were not illegal. They were, I would say, maybe unethical, but yeah, they were not illegal. So yes, and I'm not sure what Director Boyko is actually talking about. Some directors blocking other directors. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Director Boyko?
Yeah, I can elaborate on that. Recently, about 3-4 months ago, we were looking at comparing bids for some work at the airport, and 2 bids were very similar. How do you want to say, score-wise for social credit score and everything else? But the staff recommended we go to the more expensive bid. And myself and another director wanted to examine how the staff came up with this recommendation about why we're spending extra taxpayer money, and the other directors blocked us by not being able to do that. That's what I'm referring to. So if a director wants to put their time into investigating what staff is recommending, the other director should not block it. Similar to basically not saying the directors, if they put more time into the library, could have detected this, but putting more time into making sure staff is doing what they say they're doing is always a good thing. That's what I'm trying to say. So supporting other directors for doing examination will always be good. Thank you.
Dr. Roth, did you have a comment?
I'm just curious to know if, and this is to Fred or whoever can answer it, liability insurance for board members. I think, looking at this issue at the regional library, we better make sure we've got that in place, because I don't know if it would cover something like that. But thanks. Do we have liability insurance for board members, and how much is it? And just wondering. Thank you.
Please go ahead, Danielle.
All our board members are fully covered by MIABC. I don't have the exact details in terms of the extent of that coverage, but I can tell you it is quite extensive. I think MIABC is probably one of the best coverages for board members across the country. I've seen it at work, and it is, you are well covered.
Thank you, Danielle. Alberta Valley Chamber of Commerce, Director Solda, did Director Meetings leave your report?
No, but I can give a report. That's not a problem. At the last meeting, there was a lot of talk about budget and what they're going to do without city funding and how are they going to move forward. The other one is membership. They're going to do a big membership drive. And there was a workshop that was presented by the Chamber of Commerce, and it was one of the best workshops. And I spoke to this at the city meeting too, that the Chamber of Commerce presented for the public, and it was at no cost to the public. And there was probably about 6 members from the Chamber of Commerce there that represent different various businesses in Port Alberni. And it was really disappointing in that part. So they're going to offer their workshop maybe in the future. And so the workshop was on fraud prevention and presented by the Bank of Canada. And so we're talking about counterfeit, and it was really interesting because I've been in business for many years, and counterfeiting money is not what it used to be. And having a blue light to take a look to see if it's counterfeit, it's not necessary. There's other ways, preventions and stuff like that. And so I thought that was, it was really mind-boggling when it was presented. And also the RCMP, a gentleman from Vancouver, and it's to do with fraud. And when I talk about fraud, and it's to do with IT. So it talks about when you get the calls saying, hey, you owe so-and-so some money, and you send it off, and or you get an email that says, I'm with whatever courier and you still owe us money. And even calls to dating services, when come and meet me, and it touched all that, and it was really enlightening. And I think if the original district gets a chance to take that course, or you can even actually bring them here and have this presented to the regional district board, it's really worthwhile. I've taken it to our CEO at the city and said we should do it. I was really surprised IT wasn't involved in that session. And I just have a lot of great things. They actually do travel. I think they went to the West Coast. Not sure. I know they went to our First Nations here, Hoopachesset and T-Shot, and had this session. They're 2 hours. You can do them one at a time. So each one would be 2 hours, but they condensed it into 1 hour at the Chamber of Commerce. So I have nothing nasty, nothing but positive. And it was a great course for businesses, for like the West Coast. If, bring them, call our tourist bureau, get the Chamber of Commerce and get the information from them and invite them if they haven't been to the West Coast and that. So that's my report.
Thank you. Next is Air Quality Council. Oh, Daniel, please go ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing. The part of our IT protection that we have for the ACRD is all ACRD staff actually have to do an annual certification. So we go through that or very similar training annually. And then are followed up with an exam with examples. And so we actually have to pass that same certification every year. Some of us get 100%, others, in the high 90s, which is good, but it's a matter of pride. So I thought it was appropriate just to share publicly that that is something all staff go through annually.
Please go ahead, Director Solda.
I think it's great that you're doing that. And I just know there's a lot of people in Port Alberni who have been suckered in to sending money, and it could be any age. It doesn't have to be just the seniors targeted, although they're the prime example too, but all ages. And I know somebody who traveled to, let's say, Russia, right? And wanted to meet his bride, and there was no bride. So but sent a lot of money, or someone was flying here into Port Alberni and they send me money so I can do it. And I just think that's so wrong.
Director Cote.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that I was a victim, but I didn't lose any money or anything, but I was actually at the police station in Port Alberni and handed them my phone, and they were saying that there was an officer in the building that was coming to arrest me. And I said, I handed my phone over, and they said, no, this is, they said, it's an illegal act to impersonate a RCMP officer, but it happens to everybody. They had me in tears. Like they're very sophisticated. I didn't fall victim, but could have.
Director Sparrow.
You covered a lot of topics, lots going on here. One of the things I want to go back on, you mentioned Chamber of Commerce and the city's contribution. Is there something changing there or not?
We're just looking at what we're doing. It's not out there yet. So, that's between the Chamber of Commerce and the city at this moment. So it'll be reported out there.
Thank you. Air Quality Council, Director Sparrow.
Oh, Susan has her hand up.
Oh, Director Roth.
I was just curious when you're speaking about the Chamber of Commerce, why wouldn't they look at increasing their membership fees? Like, isn't that their greatest source of revenue? And isn't that how normally, organizations do things?
The Chamber of Commerce is looking at a new model to entice more members to join, more businesses to join. So there's going to be a little package, and it's been advertised so far. They're still working on their budget. There's lots to consider. So they are working on that. There's a meeting coming up, so we'll know more in the next few days.
Thank you. Director Sparrow, Air Quality Council.
All right, my turn now. Normally I give a report from the Air Quality Council. However, I got called to a meeting from the president of the Air Quality Council. The date and time, if you want to know exactly when it was, it's when my photograph got taken outside his house by people and put on social media. So that's the date and time I went to his meeting. The president told me at that time that Ken McBride, who was a coordinator, has stepped down from his position. And at this time, they are looking at considering changes to the structure and operations. They're going to discuss with me and those around to figure out how they can do this. One of the problems they have is when they get a person in position and finally train them up, the person usually finds how big the job is for the quality of work, and then they leave. So this is the second or third person I know that has left this position. So they're going to look at different ways they can probably approach this. They've been around 23 years now, and they have a lot of stuff they have done, a lot of things they advocated for, including the Woodstow program, which goes through the ACRD. So I'll keep you posted as things come up, but I won't be doing my monthly reports. I guess it is because I have no person to contact me other than the president, or I can go to his house again that you're taking or two. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sparrow. Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities, Director Cote.
Thank you. Just a reminder of the Zoom meeting that is this Friday, reforming the Local Government Act, a roadmap. So it's from 9 till 1. It's free. to sign up. And we did make a resolution here to allow directors to remit for this, for their attendance. So hopefully we'll see you all there. There was a session at the electoral area directors forum that they also talked about this. It's spreading. So also there was an invitation from the electoral area director from UBCM asking all the electoral area directors of BC to attend. AVICC registration is now opened for our convention, and nominations are closed, but if anybody wants to run for a position, you can run off the floor. And just to note that our elections are open online for all members. You do not have to attend the convention to vote for your executive. And yeah, looking forward to it. We're busy working at that, getting it all in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I did register for that course on Friday. I'm looking forward to it. Next is the Sawakan Public Advisory Group, Dr. Sparrow.
Thank you, back to me. We have a new person coming in from the city, taking over John Douglas's spot, who's here today. So if I miss anything, I'm sure she'll tell me what I've missed. I don't have my notes with me. It's been a busy week for me. They do have a new cut block out they're doing, and it's online. If you want to go see it, you can go to the website. You can do your own ask questions, and they'll get through to you. They're going through their process of certification right now, right? And they're doing all that. I didn't bring the cheat sheet of all the answers that you got for your council. I'm trying to think of everything else I can think of right now, and I can't. Would you like to hop in and add anything, or are you okay?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. It seems they're doing pretty good. They haven't really said how the tariffs or proposed tariffs are going to affect them yet, but I think the sand group going down affected them, and a few other things affected them in the area. So thank you. That's all I have.
Oh, Director Cote.
Thank you. Director Sparrow and myself attended with staff members a tour with Mosaic of the China Creek log sort, the highway entrance where they've built that new road to take logs from that area so that they stay out of residential areas, and a cut block up above Loon Lake where we couldn't actually see the machine. They did send up a drone in that soaking weather that you really couldn't see anything. You can see the tops of trees going over and hear it, but yeah, it was an interesting tour. And I'm going to be doing another tour with Mosaic for cut block areas in Sprout Lake area.
Thank you. Director Siga.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I just wanted to let the board and staff know that the Alberni Clackwood Continuing Care Society does have Michael Kerr coming for workshops on March 7th, and they wanted me to extend the invitation to our board and staff if they're interested. And if you look on the chat, you can find the contact information to register.
Thank you for that. Any other reports? Director Cote.
Thank you. It's not a report, but I'm requesting a report from the RCMP. We haven't seen them in quite some time. If they could come to the board, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
They didn't have an officer in charge for quite some time, and I think she finally got here in the summer and she wanted to take some time to settle in, but I think she's been here long enough that she could probably come in. Yeah, that would be great if you can get those again. I attended the Community Action Team meeting last week, my first one representing the ACRD, and Iden Health did bring a report showing the statistics from the drug poisoning crisis for the last quarter of the year, and I was going to bring it to the meeting today, and I forgot to dig it out and bring it, but I will bring it to our next meeting just because I think it's really good information that we should be aware of. Some areas, the numbers are starting to trend down, but others, we're still considerably higher than the provincial average, so that is concerning. But provincially, the numbers are starting to come down, but she said, don't stand up and cheer yet. We've got a long ways to go. So Any other reports? Could I motion that the Board of Directors receive the member reports? Moved by Director Sparrow, second by Director Cote, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. No unfinished business, no late business, question period. Is there any questions online, Heather?
Thank you. So there's nobody in the audience, there's no emails and no questions in Zoom. Thank you.
Next meeting is March the 12th, 2025 at 1:30. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Moved by Director Solda, second by Director Sparrow, on favor. Any opposed? The motion carried. Thank you so much, everyone.
Tell John Jack.
Yeah. Oh.
No, he didn't notice the motion, and we're gonna
Yes,
bring
the
the
next
information.
meeting. Oh, sorry. Well, now you're way ahead of the
You're
game.
ahead. You're 2 weeks ahead.